Hi and welcome back to this channel. Welcome back to this weekly spark of knowledge. This spark of knowledge that has been made possible by the Sabotage Academy. And if you want to know more about the Sabotage Academy, please visit the website sabotage.com. And if you appreciate the way that we try to share knowledge by making these videos, give this video a like, or even better, subscribe to this channel so every time we upload a new video you will know everything about it. And it's a great way to kickstart off your week in the right mindset. So having all that said, let's just jump right into today's spark of knowledge. And today I would really like to talk about the cycle of self-sabotage and why is knowledge about this vicious cycle so important when it comes to peak performance. Because there are all these things that we do to ourselves. It are no external sources. These are things that we are doing to ourselves that really hinders to reach our peak performance zone, that really hinders ourselves to reach our full potential. And why is understanding of this cycle so important? Because it are things that we're doing towards ourselves. The good thing about it is that because we're doing it ourselves, it's pretty easy to make changes in that way, because if it are external sources, obviously we have very little control over those sources. But with self-sabotaging, it's behavior that's directed toward ourselves, so we are the one in control and we have the power to make changes. So having knowledge into this cycle is important for the growth of your understanding and making the right interventions. When it comes to self-sabotage, something that really evokes this cycle is really setting perfectionistic goals. So really strive to be perfect, really strive for our actions to be perfect. Let's say, and it's something I see a lot in my day-to-day practice when it comes to, let's say, a soccer player, a midfielder, and for his goal he really sets the goal like, okay, every pass that I wanna give, really have to be from solid, kind of like the highest level of quality, really those passes really need to be an AA plus, that's the goal that he has. And obviously when that's the goal that you set yourself during a competition, you will fail almost every time, because let's be honest, you maybe hit that AA plus pass maybe once, twice, 3 times a year. Most of the time it just doesn't work that way, because there are so many factors that are pushing upon your performance, like your opponent. Maybe the opponent that you play against is just very good. Doesn't mean that you play bad, but the resistance that you're facing is just highly from high quality. Maybe the referee kind of like make decisions not in your favor. There can be a lot of things going on, which doesn't really determine the quality of your play. But if that's your goal, obviously you will fail most of the time. And every time we're failing a goal, every time we feel that we cannot live up to our potential, or we cannot live up for the goals or the ideas that we have from our own performance, it hurts. You have that moment that you think, I'm failing again. And every failure, when it comes from that perspective with not meeting your own goals, will set in this cycle in your head, that raises all kinds of self-doubt, like, questions like, maybe I'm not good enough. Do I have what it takes, to really be able to do that? So while playing your match, you're all thinking about that, you're self-evaluating, you're feeling that emotion of failure, of disappointment in yourself. And obviously you will never get that moment anymore that you're really in the zone. You're kind of like acting, you're following your instinct without thinking, because you're on this cycle. So it's so important. And in this video I will include the vicious cycle of self-sabotage, in which that model really shows good, in which vicious loop you can get when your standpoint, when your goals are perfectionistic, how quickly they can deteriorate in loss of confidence, self-doubt, and obviously a performance decline. So it's very important that you set realistic goals. So for this midfielder, if that midfielder would come to me, obviously suffering from a performance decline, suffering from a performance gap, there's difference between his level in training and his level in competition. Because honestly, what I see during training, the mindset of players are usually more flexible. You know, they're more open to trial and error, more open to fail. But then when competition comes, you know, they often tell themselves a story like, okay, you know, this is the moment that it needs to happen. This is the moment that everything has to be golden. This is the moment that I have to show the world what I can do. And in essence, of course, that is true. I mean, you want to show the world, you want to show your team, you want to show the audience what you can do. But it's so much better to come from that perspective of excellence instead of perfectionistic, because when it all has to be perfect, you don't take, you know, the realistic circumstances into account. When it comes from excellence, you say, you know, in this moment I will be the best version of myself. So if my opponent is really good and just gives me that high resistance and it makes it difficult for me to really kind of like get into the game, I really try my best. I try to work with what I have. I try to keep pushing forward, you know, and I try to go for the functional path, you know, try to keep creating something. Because when you look at this vicious cycle of self-sabotage, something that we really see if we go for that perfectionistic goal, you know, for that AA plus path, is see that, you know, procrastination and during play, when we look at human behavior, you know, that really that avoidant component will set in, because it's human nature and it's from evolution that if we experience something unpleasant, and be honest, you know, failing all the time, not because you're not playing well, but just because your goal is just nobody can attain that goal. It's non-attainable. We want to kind of like remove ourselves from that situation. We think like, hey, this is unpleasant, I need to get out of it. So obviously when you're set that perfectionistic goal and very humanly you cannot succeed at attaining it, you say like, hey, you know, just let it disappear a little bit more and more, you know, just don't take that much risk. I just go playing backward or to the side, really choose that easy path, because, you know, that's the best chance that I get to really make that without any mistakes and meet my standards somewhere. Only, obviously, when you're a midfielder, you have to connect the people behind you with the people in front of you. You got such an important factor. Keep pushing forward, keep creating, opening things up. And with the most trainers I speak to, that is also the assignment of these players, you know, pushing forward, creating things. So you can imagine when they start avoiding things, that, you know, their overall play, but also their overall rating from a coach perspective goes down, because it's just not what they need to do. So it's it's kind of like a cycle that you very easily fall into. And when you suffer yourself from a performance gap, or you're a trainer and coach and you really notice a significant performance gap with your players, it's very, very a good tip to really see if this cycle somewhere is going on, if this player or yourself, you know, set realistic goal, a goal of excellence. Demand from yourself that you're being the best version of yourself in the moment, that you work with what you have. And sometimes, you know, you really have to choose being functional, you know, keep trying, and really ask yourself too, like, hey, what is the task? What is my work in this team? What do I need to do? I have to keep pushing forward. You know, does my trainer say something like, hey, you know, every pass has to be perfect? No, you know, my task is to keep pushing forward, keep the pressure on, keep trying, and try to find openings, and give myself the freedom to really touch my instinct, you know, to really come into my core qualities. So I included the model of self-sabotage in this video. Again, if you suffer from a performance gap, or you know, when you're a trainer, coach, or a leader, that people in your team suffer from performance gap, this is a really good cycle to really spend some attention to, because this is one of the biggest reasons why the performance gap exists, and why we lose creativity, and why we lose, like, you know, really reaching a full potential. I really enjoyed making this spark of knowledge. I look forward to talk to you next week. I hope you have a wonderful day. Again, if you like this video, give this video a like or subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you next week. Stay safe.